Hi, this is Stu, and we're here, of course, at the beautiful Purple Valley. And this time we're looking at what we're going to call vinyasa fundamentals. And we're here with David, who's like quite a stickler for the, is that a polite way of putting it? For the way that you actually need to do the vinyasa. And of course, I'm laughing already because David knows that actually I'm like the antichrist of fundamentals. There's so many adaptations going on and flourishes and this sort of stuff. So I would probably be his worst student.
We can still be friends.
We can still be friends. Excellent. So tell me, David, what is it that makes it important for people like me and everybody else to stick to the guidelines of what is being suggested we do in the vinyasa?
Well, my reasoning is there's a certain line of teaching. So now what I'm teaching is what Sharat's teaching in Mysore, India. So while there's a certain arbitrary quality to some vinyasas, you know, you say you do something different, somebody else does something different, it's not really a big deal, right?
Yeah.
But I think the function of vinyasa, or the importance of it, is that it gives us a frame of focus. And so if we don't define practice as asana or vinyasa, but we describe it as the effort to focus, which is the more traditional abhyasa, then you can think of the more specific you can be in your vinyasas, the more you focus. It's like an external manifestation of focus.
Yes.
Right? Specificity.
Yeah. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I suppose I'd go along with that as well, because although I may change alignment, I change it with a purpose. And so it is very specific, and it is still requires the same amount of concentration. So, but it means that you know why it is you're doing something.
Right.
And so that's coming from the same point of view in sort of ways.
Exactly, except that it becomes more objective when it's part of the tradition instead of part of our creation.
Yes.
And so in that sense, we use it to reveal our subjectivity.
Yeah.
You know, so we're going through things that are given to us, not as we've determined them to be, and then trying to meet those coordinates. You know, that kind of reveals a lot more thought processes, I think, than when we kind of manifest what it is that we're trying to do.
Yes.
You know. Yeah,
and I suppose there's the argument of do we also know what we're doing,
for us.
What's best for us, or why we're changing things, and whether that is the right idea or not.
Yeah, there's an arbitrary quality to that too, right? That changes all the time.
Yeah.
So there's something, because the vinyasa count is static. You know what I mean. It's a structure that if it changes, it takes a long time to change. It doesn't change day to day.
Yes.
And so that stillness reveals the fluctuations for us, the changes in our body, changes in our mind.
Yeah. And for you, is it the sequence of the movements that's important, or the counting of the vinyasa itself, or both? Because I know some people are real counters. They know exactly, okay, well, I'm now Ashtal, I'm now whatever it is.
Yeah.
Do you do that? Or
I know all the counts.
Right.
So when I'm practicing, I don't think to myself, sapta, inhale, jump through. But I'm aware of that map now. I've got it memorized, internalized.
Yeah.
I think it is important because it's part of understanding the structure, like the frame that you're operating within. And so when you start to study the numbers, each vinyasa is like a little package of information, right? It's got a movement, or it describes the asana.
Yes.
It's got the breath, and it's got the drishti, tristana. And so when you start to really look at that, it takes away a lot of options. Right, it tells you exactly what to do, and then what you're not supposed to do.
Yes.
But you have to study it so that you know, because a lot of people think they know the vinyasa sequence, but the edges are quite rounded, or it's kind of a blurry understanding. So when you start to study it, you start to see, okay, this is exactly where the movement begins. This is exactly where it ends, and that kind of detail, I think, promotes more concentration, more focus.
It always gives you opportunity to question, as you said, why you do certain things.
Yeah.
Like I know I had a little bit of a come together before I go out with the arms, and so like today I was thinking, okay, knowing this was coming up, I thought, okay, try and look at why you do these things. And so I was starting from Samasthiti and just going out with the arms. And I was thinking, yeah, there really is no need for me to do that little bit at the front.
Right.
So I wonder how that crept in there in the first place.
Yeah,
You know.
I mean, there's nothing harmful in most of those movements. The
Yeah.
only thing that I take, that I'm trying to take them away because I think that they're mostly unconscious.
Yes.
And the way I understand doing our sadhana is that we're supposed to be filling that time with intention and awareness. So if you've got these kind of random, unconscious...
It's not really random because it happens every time. But
yeah, that's right. Habitual.
Habitual is a better word, yeah.
But most of the time people don't realize that they're doing them until they're,
Pointed out.
Yeah,
or-
pointed out. Yeah.
It's quite true.
And then when you experience trying to get rid of them, you feel the pressure. You can feel that you want to do it. It's like fixing your shorts or your shirt or whatever in samastiti.
Yes.
You watch people, that becomes a very habitual action. It's not got anything to do with the shorts or the shirt.
Yeah.
It's just part of what they do. It's
the
a little break.
preparation, yeah.
But it's unconscious. And so when you take that away from somebody, you watch, they want to do something and they don't. And I think actually that's a really strong moment in practice. Yeah, when it occurs to you and then you don't let it play out.
Yes.
Because that's the thought, and then that's you starving it. You kind of weaken its power over you.
And it doesn't actually take long to break a habit, does it? It feels a little uncomfortable to
Yeah.
start with, but it doesn't take a week of practice and you've broken that pattern.
I guess the shallow ones.
Yes, there is that, I suppose.
Yeah, so that's vinyasa in kind of a microscopic way, vinyasa by vinyasa.
Yeah.
And then in a larger sense, the way that they're stacked together. Yeah, I think there's a developmental order. That's another meaning of vinyasa, right? The ordering of
The
it.
layering, maybe.
Yeah, and so certainly it makes sense the way the sequence is built so that you're not starting with, Marichasana D.
Yes.
You have the fundamental asanas, the standing poses to kind of warm the body up and start the initial stretching.
Is it on that same subject? Is there any understanding you have? Because I've always wondered why, we've got all these separate sequences, mostly after the standing postures, basically. First, primary, second, advanced A, B, whatever. But the standing postures are always the same, that first block, shall we say. Is there a reasoning behind that you're aware of? Why they don't just start with something a little bit trickier when you're going to go on and do advanced A anyway?
Yeah.
Or?
I don't know. I guess you're always kind of beginning your practice. Like you're always cold at the start, or you know that you've got that little transitional time with sun salutations. And for me, I always appreciate the sun salutations in the standing because I drop in to the practice. I can't just immediately go deep.
Yes.
And so the accessibility of them kind of promotes the rhythm of the vinyasa, where if I'm doing something like, again, Marichasana D or something more advanced, then it's hard for me to meet the requirements of the vinyasa. Then it starts to get tested.
Yes,
but
so it's a challenge. You meet the challenges.
Yeah, you meet the challenges, and you get strong that way. And so it's pacing. You kind of start a little bit slower, and then you get tested further
And
on.
I suppose if you don't, that's like you were saying why it's important to know the vinyasa, because if you don't know it, you don't know that you're not meeting the challenge, or you're not giving yourself those opportunities to be challenged in a way, are you? To get the tempo and keep the tempo up. Because I know myself as well, it's very easy to slide into a much softer or less challenging tempo.
Yeah.
If you throw it all out the window and just think, well, I take as many breaths as I take to get into it or whatever.
Sure, I do that all the time as well. But there's always the call of the vinyasa. Tap, tap, tap.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So are there certain bits that you find, just as that we're focusing people in on, that are very, very common, that as probably something to do with the A's and B's with the hands, is quite common?
I usually use those to talk about like doing vinyasa. So I have these two kind of ideas around vinyasa. They're not traditional in the sense that they're not part of Sharat's teaching, but they're ways that I've used to deepen my experience of vinyasa and to bring more effort into it. So I try to make my movement last for the duration of the breath. Yes. And then I try to get rid of all the extraneous movements. So those two things inside of the sun salutation, they make it harder, but they make it harder because they make me attend to it more, and my concentration then becomes deeper and sharper on what I'm doing. Yeah. Yeah, and then I try to carry those ideas all the way through. Yeah, which it's difficult.
And so the things like, for instance, I would imagine like para- другая and that, I keep my hand on my hip with a view to start with, to a view to get myself pelvis square, and then there's an extra breath slides in there as I bring the arm up and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So there's a purpose to what I'm doing as such, but it's extraneous to the vinyasa count. So how can we work in a mindful, because that's the other thing, that sometimes when people stick rigidly to the vinyasa, sometimes their alignment of the body goes out the window in the view of keeping on time or whatever. So how can we manage that?
Well, it's a bit of a balance, but a lot of the time you won't like this. The it's not about the outside appearance.
Picture,
it's more about the experience of it, right? And for me, I can be like that because I'm a teacher and I'm always watching people's alignment and helping them.
Yes.
I can be like that with myself too. When I'm practicing, I can get overly fixated on how it looks.
Yes.
Do you know? And so I have to keep coming back to how I'm experiencing it, how it feels, and make that the priority. But I have the rules of the alignment in my head. Those are anchoring me.
Yes.
And then I have to kind of just focus on the experience instead of the straight lines.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I know I can hear what you're saying. I'm just thinking along that alignment also changes your experience.
Yeah,
so
that's
when you're
true.
really nicely
That's
aligned, your experience is quite nice quality.
Yeah, if you can get into a good alignment.
If you can get it. Yeah, well, there is that too.
But I hear you. That is that balance, and Sharat says even, like, you're going to need to take extra breaths for a while.
Yeah.
You're not given a beginner sequence. This is the end result. And so here it is, and now you've got to slowly develop the ability to be able to do it.
Yeah.
So you take extra breaths. Breath comes first. So you always have to be breathing as you get into the pose. If it takes more movements, then you take more breaths.
Yeah. Is there a certain? There's also quite a knack to timing the extra breaths, though, isn't there?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you're just you're taking extra breaths, but they're not linked to movement.
Yeah.
If you're not careful.
Yeah, that's where I use the kind of pressure of the vinyasa to I try to stay measured in the extra breaths or the extra movements that I'm taking. I just try to attend to what I'm doing as much as I can, because it's when you have to take those extra breaths or do the extra movements that you can start to kind of do other things.
Yes, wheel away.
Yeah.
And do you have a certain tempo that you feel is nice to the breath? Obviously, it depends on your ability level and that. But like we have, say, we're striving towards a particular vinyasa and getting so much done.
Yeah.
Do you also have a rhythm that you feel to the breath that is actually a something to aim towards?
Well, free breathing with sound is the technique that we're using. So it's going to change person to person, but I think it's an easy breath.
Okay.
And then I think as you get more accomplished, it becomes a deeper breath.
Yeah.
I made this recording the
drum beat.
Yeah, the drum beat. So that's like a 4-second inhale, 4-second exhale, which is great for the sun salutations and some of standing. But when you get to Utthita Hasta, Padangusthasta, you're like, oh, this isn't right.
That's funny you should say that, because my wife, she will not let me cheat on that one, because we practice together a lot, and her breath stays the same. And I'm like, I really want to breathe quicker, but I don't, because I can hear her and I keep it the same. But I would be adapting it there. Yeah, and most people do, don't they?
I think so. I think there's a certain kind of organic movement to the breath. When it gets more difficult, you start breathing more quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, Sharat takes like an hour and 20 minutes or so to do primary from start to finish.
Quite a race.
Yeah, it's that's keeping to the vinyasa. But even then, he gives like little extra bits of time for people to get in the more difficult postures and
because I often have wondered with the counting of classes and the counting of breath. I've experimented a little bit with my own count, and if you kept to a 4-count breath, inhale, exhale, that's 8 counts between when you say 1 and 2 or whatever. And if you stay quiet during that time, that seems like an eternity of time.
Long. Yeah.
And I got a feeling that's why they count quicker, because of the fact it seems so long between the counts. And so it gradually speeds up.
Yeah, just to have something to talk about,
like
to fill in the silence.
Exactly. So I'm wondering whether it's like, because it seems to get quicker and quicker sometimes. And it's definitely quicker than a natural practice. Do you feel?
Yeah.
Do you feel when you do your own practice it's quicker than when you go to or not?
Well, sometimes
you don't have to agree with me.
I'll do primary in an hour and 10 minutes. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so that's quite...
Yeah. No, should I? I don't know. But
Yeah.
I do. You know, once
Yeah.
it gets a bit easier, you can kind of slide in and out of stuff.
And like you said the other day when we were filming the stuff to do with the jumping, that once you're jumping through an
Yeah,
extra,
that's right,
you're
you can
in
meet.
quicker anyway.
Yeah.
You meet in the count quicker.
And I think it's also, you know, we're talking about how to do everything too, but vinyasa, there's two sides to it too, right? There's the abhyasa, there's the practice side, but there's vairagya inside of that system too. Because if you can stick to the system and it keeps kind of throwing all of your, you know, thoughts and efforts and say mistakes or inabilities into relief, you start saying, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. It kind of gives you a way out of that too, because it says just step back in. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
rejoin it.
Yeah. And the alignment stuff, you know, I mean, okay, so it's important that we meet certain conditions for the pose just to be the pose, and then certain things have to be there so it's safe.
Yeah.
It also lets you let go of that too. You know, it says, okay, whatever happened just now, it doesn't matter, now you're doing this. You know, if you're doing it correctly.
Like a clean slate.
Yeah, you just keep letting go.
Yeah.
So as much as you keep focusing, you keep letting go, which is actually, it's a difficult technique to embody, right? Like if you say to somebody, just let go of it, what does that mean? You know?
And also it's very hard that people get fixated on a particular posture as well, don't they? And they might build themselves up to it before they get there.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
then they might berate themselves afterwards for another few postures, thinking, well, that was a lot of shite today, you know, and I'm going to do it better next time. And then before they know it, you've done 4 or 5 postures without actually thinking about what you've been doing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you were just practicing being mean to yourself.
Exactly,
right?
yeah. So what you're saying is quite, very good practice is to start each posture sort of fresh.
Yeah, each vinyasa, even, each breath.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, that's true.
There's something really powerful in that.
I'm ready.
So I reckon it's time for you to show us and demonstrate and clean up our act, eh? And I'm going to be watching. Yeah, good. All right, so we're going to go straight into the demo.
Okay.
Thanks, David.
Hi, I'm David Robson here at Purple Valley, and Stu has asked me to talk about the fundamentals of vinyasa. So we're doing the vinyasa of the fundamental poses. And I guess the goal of this demonstration talk is to convert Stu to a traditional practitioner. So I'm going to just talk about some of the things that I encounter as a teacher that are different, you know, place to place, that don't match the teaching as I've been taught. And so I should clarify too that the teaching that I'm presenting here is the teaching that I've received from Sharat Joyce at KPJY in Mysore, India. So first one would be para- другая, toe hold pose. And a lot of the time there's extra breaths put in here. The correct vinyasa would be from samastiti, ekam, bring your feet hip width apart and inhale, reach down and catch the big toes. So that's all one movement on the inhale. A lot of the time, I see it's broken down into a couple of different actions. But the teaching for as long as I've been studying in Mysore has always been ekam, feet hip width apart, inhale, catch the big toes, head up. And then dwe, exhale into the state of the asana. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Trini, inhale, head up. And then you exhale here. And this exhalation is an interesting one in the series because we encounter a lot of different breaths that don't have vinyasa numbers associated with them. So this one after Trini, where we inhale our head up, we exhale, there's no count. And where there's no count, generally, there's no movement. So it's either no movement or a return to samastiti. This actually, I think, used to be a return to samastiti in the full vinyasa system. Now, since we're not doing full vinyasa, we just hold still. So I would say Trini, inhale, head up, and then exhale here. And then straight to the next one, parastasana, yekam, inhale, hands under the feet, and dwe, exhale into the state of the asana. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 breaths. Trini, inhale, head up, and then all on the exhale, back to samastiti. So if you're doing those extra breaths, this is going to seem very edited. But that's what I kind of like about this vinyasa system. It's very concise. It's very specific. A lot of the time it gets rid of movements that don't need to be there. So let's look at Trikonasana, same idea. From Samastiti, we're going to ekam, inhale, step 3 feet to the right. 3 feet would be 3 feet between your heels, 3 of your own feet. And notice when I step to the right, I'm stepping into a straight foot position. So in a way, it's kind of a neutral position. I call it starfish pose. It's not really called starfish pose. And then it's only on dway, on the exhale, that I pivot on the heel and come down to the right side. So the right side begins on the exhalation. Into the state of the asana. Drishti is the left fingers, hastakai. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Trini, inhale. I come back up. I come back into my starfish position. And then same, Chitwari, exhale, just turning the left foot. Right foot doesn't change. And I come down. Pancha, inhale, come back up. Now, I know there's lots of different teachings about how your back foot should be, which way your thigh should be turning in. So I'm basing this sort of on the pattern of the vinyasa, that ekam into starfish, and then just the one side changing, and then also pictures of Sharat and Guruji doing this posture. So arms up, and for B it'll be the same thing. On the exhale, dway, only the right foot is going to change, and I spin and I come down, left hand to the floor, right arm in the air. So what am I not doing there? Well, I'm not doing any waving motions with the arm. I'm not taking an extra breath to set up. I'm not putting my hand on my sacrum to make sure my hips are nice and level. I'm trying to make the movement as concise and precise as possible. Exhale into the state of the asana. And then Trini, inhale, back up. You have to kind of watch out for your neighbors when you come up with your arms out like that. Chatwari, exhale, left side, same thing. Pancha, inhale, come back up. Exhale, samastiti. So very simple, very direct movements, not that complicated. Simple but not easy. Next one, Parshvikonasana. It's the same vinyasas as Uttita Trikonasana A and B. Yikam, inhale. This time you step 5 feet to the right, very wide stance. Dwe, exhale. Only the right foot changes. Bend the right knee till the bottom of the thigh is parallel to the floor. Left arm over the ear, right hand down. Drishti is your left fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Trini, inhale. We come back up. Starfish. Chatwari, left foot changes. Bend the left knee. Drishti is on your right fingers. Inhale, pancha. Come back up. Starfish. This one's a bit tricky. B, dwe, all on the exhale. I'm going to try to turn and bring my left arm outside my right knee, my right arm over my ear, and gaze at the right fingers. So that's the one that usually we like to do a bunch of extra movements on. Maybe you need to. When I started Ashtanga, I used to have to come down on the knee and then use the other hand, and I would slowly wiggle myself in. And it would take me probably about 10 breaths to get into the posture. Now, after 15 years, I've got it down to maybe 2 or 3 breaths. So you have to keep whittling away at the extra movements, the extra time it takes to get into the posture. So again, B, I would just turn on the heel, Chatwari on the exhale, and bring the arm outside and the other arm over the ear. Pancha, inhale, come back up. Exhale, samastiti. So next is Sarita Padottanasana. It has the same distance as the last pose, Parshvikonasana. Yikam, inhale, step 5 feet, catch your waist. Lots of people do all these different things with their arms in this pose. It's just the waist. You just go ekam, inhale, catch your waist. That's it. It's always been that way. And then dwe, exhale, hands to the floor. Now here's a good example of how you can be really precise with your movements. Put your hands where you want them to be through the entire posture, right at the beginning. So if you can go deep into this pose, put your hands far back between your feet. Inhale, and then trini, exhale, head down. So right there was an uncounted breath. Inhale. Sometimes Sharath says inhale, head up. But there's no vinyasa count there, so it shouldn't really be a cue. I think it's just a correction because when people put their hands on the floor, they drop their head down too low. So he has to say inhale, head up. So in a way you could save Sharath that correction and some time if you just put your head where it should be on dway. And then you inhale here and trini, exhale into the state of the asana. Chitwadi, inhale, head up. Exhale, there's no count, so there's no movement. It's on pancha, on the inhale, that you bring your hands to your waist and come up and exhale here. B, ekam, inhale, now you get to stretch your arms out. Dwe, exhale, hands to the waist, squeeze the elbows. Inhale, no count, no movement, so you're not doing a back bend. Trini, exhale into the state of the asana. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Chitwadi, inhale, come all the way back up. Exhale, no movement. C, yekam, inhale, arms up. Dwe, exhale, interlock your fingers. Inhale, no movement. Trini, exhale, go down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Chitwadi, inhale, all the way back up. Exhale. D, ekam, inhale, catch your waist on the inhale. Dwe, exhale, catch the big toes. Keep your head up so Sharath doesn't have to scream. Inhale here, and then trini, exhale, head down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Chitwadi, inhale, head up. Exhale, no count, so there's no movement. Pancha, inhale, now bring your hands to your waist and come up. And exhale, back to Samastiti. So that's the one way to do Sarita Padottanasana. It's not one of the ways in this stream of tradition. It's the way to do it. So there's a book, Ashtanga Yoga Anushtana by Sharath. If you go through it, those are the vinyasas. Those are the cues. So once you've memorized it, you just do it the same way all the time. Last pose in the fundamental sequence is Parsvottanasana. So from Samastiti, this one's a little sad because it doesn't have starfish. So I go ekam, inhale, and all on the inhale, I'm going to try to turn and bring my hands into reverse prayer and get set up for the other side. And then dwe, keeping the legs straight, exhale, come down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Drishti is the toe in this pose. Inhale, trini, come up and turn. Chitwadi, left side, exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pancha, inhale, come up. There's a starfish at the end. And then exhale, back to Samastiti. So kind of a crash course in the fundamental vinyasas. Again, I think they're important just because the specificity of them helps us to focus. It gives us a frame to put all our attention inside of. And there is a teaching, there is a structure to how to do these things. So I think it's important for us to understand that. You know, even if we decide to do something else, at least we know what it is first. Okay, so I'm David Robson. Thank you to Stu in Purple Valley. Bye.